This is the Kodak 2A folding autographic brownie. These cameras were very popular in the early part of the 20th century. Kodak made about 500,000 of these. They made it from a time period of about 1910 through to the late 1920s. It says on the shutter that this shutter patent was in 1910 and revised in 1913. I kind of believe it's slightly later than that though, because of the slightly C-shaped stand on here. The earlier ones had a more S shape on it. It does appear to be the older type of shutter though, so perhaps this was an intermediate stage of the camera. The film that this camera used is the 1:16 format, which is approximately 2¼ inch wide and is the same sort of length as a 120 film. However, it's slightly different. So although you can use 120 roll film in this, there are certain things which aren't going to match up. The format of this camera is 60mm by about 110mm. That means that on a 120 roll of film, instead of getting 12 shots, you're probably going to get about 7 or 8. Also, the window in the top there won't match up with the number frames in your camera, in your film. So you're going to have to do a little bit of renegotiation with a spare film to make sure that you're not going to overlap the films or leave too big spaces between them. This is the front of the camera when it's folded up. You can see it has a film release mechanism here, which is very stiff, but if I can move it across, that allows me to take the whole of the front of the camera out and the film goes in here. Again, I'm led to believe that this might be a later model because of the curved nature of this cartridge. The earlier ones were very square and more difficult to fit. And as you can see, this is the camera not the camera manufacturer, but the camera seller. So if I slide this back in here, and it is a very snug fit. Try the other way around. That's better. Always works better if you do it the right way, I've found. Okay, the other two things to note on here are the tripod mount and this lever here. If to open up the camera, I swing the lever around, which unlocks it, and I fold it out, and that exposes the rest of the camera. If I then stand the camera up, I can use the little knurled knob here to pull the bellows unit out. Focusing is on a scale along the side and it's in feet and meters. So it's sort of best guess focusing. The viewfinder looks a little cloudy, but that's cloudy by design. It's actually a ground glass prism in here which allows you to see the view directly in front of you. Now this camera, due to its nature, will produce portrait orientated images as default. If you want it to produce landscapes, then well, clearly you turn the camera over, but you also turn the viewfinder over so that you can see what's going on. On this one you can tell it's had a bit of repair work on it, so I'm not going to actually try this with a film because I have little faith that over the years this still will be light tight. The shutter speeds on this camera are quite basic. we have a 25th of a second, a 50th of a second, a 100th of a second, and 2 additional settings. The first one is B for bulb. So if you were going to use a flash gun, you put it on B, you depress the shutter release, which is here, and it stays depressed until you release it. So it will be open the shutter, fire the flash bulb, release the shutter. The second interesting control on here is actually the T setting. Move it onto there, and this is for time. It sounds similar to bulb, but the bulb setting is push release. This is push push. I push down and it opens the shutter. I push again and it releases the shutter. So if I wanted to do a night shot or a very long exposure for a landscape that was several seconds long, I could wander away from the camera and reduce the chance of camera shake and come back and release the shutter. The apertures on the bottom go from 2 through to 128. It says here, I don't know if you can see it, but it says US before that. In the early part of the 20th century, the United States, as so often, ploughed its own furrow when it came to camera controls, and US 4 is equivalent to F8. So this goes 4, 8, 16, think of that as 8, 11, and so on. When I want to fold the camera up, it doesn't really work just pushing the lever here. There's a catch on this part here which I have to depress first. If I depress that and firmly with a finger and thumb, I can slide the whole of the unit back into the camera body. Again, I can't just lift the flap up, so I have to press down firmly on each side of those, which releases catches on either side, and then I can fold the camera up as it was originally, and now it's locked. When I get to the end of the film, my film rewind knob is here, and I can complete winding it on, or indeed winding it on between shots. As I said before, winding it on between shots with the 120 film is a bit problematic because this won't quite fit. The last thing to say about, of course, is why it's called Autographic. And you'll see it has a little window here with a stylus on it. I can lift this up, and if I had the 116 film, I would actually be able to use the stylus to scratch into the emulsion information that I might want. So it will remind me what the day has been. A very useful accessory that came with this particular camera is this cable release. The cable release screws in here, and that allows you to fire the shutter without touching the camera. That's going to be incredibly useful given the limited range of shutter speeds to reduce camera shake. Now, I borrowed this camera, so I don't know why it has a bonus feature to it. It has an additional plate which mounts around the lens. It's almost the same as the original plate, except that instead of aperture rings here, it's got suggested subjects. So if you were going to photograph something which was near or average or far away, it suggests different aperture settings for those different distances. And I'm not sure if that was a standard thing or not, but I quite like it. So the Kodak 2A folding autographic. Original price was about $12 US. If you wanted to buy the cable release, that came extra, and if you wanted to buy the case, and here I have the case, that was an additional couple of dollars. I suspect though the case was actually designed for more than one camera, because when I put the camera in the case it does rattle about a bit. However, as I said, about 500,000 of them produced, so not particularly rare. If you were to go and buy one of these on eBay today, you'd probably get one for between £20 and £30 in reasonable condition. But if you're interested in old cameras, it's quite a nice thing to have. And certainly decoratively it's beautiful, and it actually still works. This one I would have to check out the light tight nature of the bellows first, but given that that can be sealed up, then maybe this is quite a usable camera still.